Let's see if this live actually works, shall we? I'm not going to lie. I'm actually really nervous today. Like really, really nervous. So, when you do that kind of experiment and you do an experiment and you're kind of hopeful for the answer, you're hopeful that your kind of theory proves to be correct. Well, the last 2 days I've been doing an experiment with AI. And I'm actually really nervous today because today is the first day of putting that experiment into action. And I want to tell you about this because there's a really useful thing you can do with this. So I've been looking about how do I grow my revenue and do it more efficiently. So, how do I get better results from doing the same level of effort? So often people do this the wrong way around. They've got no results and try and do it with the lowest effort. You have to put effort in to get something out, and then you optimize your effort for better results and better returns. So I've been today is the day where I am implementing an experiment, and I am nervous. I'm slightly a little bit terrified really, because, this should be incredible. So AI has told me that this shift that I've made in my marketing, or I'll make in my marketing, will actually increase my revenue by about 112%. So more than double. So you can see why I'm kind of nervous, right? Because if this works, this is amazing. So let me walk you through what I did, because you could probably replicate this and try this experiment for yourself. So I've been looking at my sales history, and I've been looking for patterns, like who are the sweet spot customers and how do we get more sweet spot customers? And so what I did is I used Apollo, so Apollo.io, and I enriched all my customer data. So more information than I knew, because we have roughly about 200 and something customers every month. So it's quite a lot of customers. So over the years, we quickly amass a lot of customer data. So in order to go, well, how do I focus the marketing on getting more of the people who'll convert? It's a logical thing to do. So we enriched, excuse me, we enriched all the data, and that gave us all their companies, industries, all that kind of, how many people work in the company, all that kind of stuff. So we got all that data together, and then I did two things. I went to ChatGPT and Gemini, and I used both of them to do the same thing so I could compare the results. I actually found Gemini to be better at this than ChatGPT. ChatGPT would randomly make shit up. So I did this. I enriched the data, put it into ChatGPT, and then started interrogating the data, asking some key questions of like, who do we sell the most stuff to? It highlighted which people spend more than others, which types of job roles, which types of industries. And we ended up with basically 5 sweet spots in our data. So you go, whoa, Dean, people do this all the time. They look at who was their best customers and try and get more of them. Yeah, but I went one step further. So what I then did is used ChatGPT and Gemini to audit my marketing activity to look at how much of our marketing effort, how much of our email list, how much of all of our touch points with different people target those 4 sweet spots. So it turned out, and this is the crazy thing, turned out that actually it was less than 10% of our marketing was hitting those sweet spot customers. 10%. So follow my logic here, and some probability people will probably have something to say about this, but follow my logic. So if we increase, and this is like the Pareto principle of a fashion, 8 to 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers. Yeah. Well, in this kind of scenario, 80% of our revenue comes from 20% of our customers. 80% of our sales coming from 20%. Not quite, but close, if you know what I mean. So the logic is, what if we increase the percentage of our marketing to that group? So focus on growing the email list with those sweet spot customers. Focus on growing all of our efforts, all fronts, our sales team, marketing team, everything, focusing more on those sweet spot 4 industries, 4 personas. What would that do? And so today is the first day where actually we're deploying around 50% of our marketing. From today, 50% of our marketing is on those 4 sweet spot personas. And I'm nervous because you don't know whether it's going to work. You have no idea. So we're deploying effort. We're putting all the effort in, focusing to find out if it works. And it's a little bit scary because, you know, ChatGPT AI has done the work, but this is where we find out if AI works any good. And I checked it. The logic of what AI suggested. Now, what AI did as well is I asked it the question, what happens if we focus on these 4 personas and increase their share of marketing from the current where they are to 50%? What's the likely uplift in revenue? And it did this long, complicated calculation, factoring in diminishing returns, all that kind of stuff. And it came back at 112% increase in revenue. 112%. So we're about to see in a real life situation whether AI can actually shift business revenue that fast and that quickly by taking its advice. And I'm nervous because, you know, it could all be for nothing. It could all be just an experiment that comes to nothing. But that got me thinking, because, you know, sometimes we want the guarantee of an answer before we do the experiment. And we won't do the experiment unless we know the answer. And I've come across this before where people have approached me and said, Dean, I want to use LinkedIn to get clients and help me do it, and I'll pay you to do it. And they'll say to me things like, so how many leads am I guaranteed? Guaranteed. And it's like, nobody can guarantee you leads. Nobody can guarantee leads. And any experienced person in the marketing industry or sales industry will tell you that you can do the same campaign. You can do a campaign A and get £10,000 worth of sales, and you can replicate that same campaign again and get nothing. And it feels like sometimes people don't get their heads around that actually you can do all the things can be the same and get completely different results. And why am I saying this? Well, I'm saying this because human beings are difficult creatures to predict. And AI has predicted that if we do this change, 112% lift in revenue. And we're about to find out. We'll find out in the next few days and weeks ahead whether that works. But it's really interesting to see how often people think that people make decisions often based on data-driven decisions. Well, apparently that's what I'm making and that's what we've made. But we actually won't know until the proof is in the pudding, is in the eating. And I think it's really easy, particularly if you're not in the marketing world and you don't operate in the marketing world, that level of uncertainty, that level of it's science and art kind of together, people don't get that there's only data will only take you so far, but you are still working with human beings, and human beings are unpredictable. They can do one thing predictably and then react differently to something else. It's so strange, right? And when you're on LinkedIn or when you're on any kind of channel where you're trying to reach people, there are just so many human-centric variables that it will be really interesting to see if AI actually is right. And I'm going to come back to you and tell you, maybe I'm not going to see any big change today, of course. It's going to take some time to work through the system. But we made a big change today. And so I am quite nervous about this. But I'd encourage you, go and look at your customer database. Look at the people where you've actually closed business. Go and enrich that data and go have a look at where's the patterns. And that's the secret to doing well in business is finding a pattern and doubling down into it. Finding a gap in the market and really occupying that space. And I think sometimes some people with really good ideas, they got really good ideas that they want to launch that idea, and they're flexible about where they put that idea and how they develop that idea. And I see this all the time with people saying, well, I can help this group and this group and this group. Well, you've got to find where the sweet spot is. You've got to find the sweet spot. And that sweet spot is, who are you great working with? Who's great to work for and with? Who's easy to reach? Who's easier to convert? Who's easier to get the best result for? All of those kind of things, who's good at paying, all the obvious things, you start to map all those out and go, find the sweet spot. And you can do much better. You can be more profitable by zeroing in on a focused group where they're your sweet spot. And it might take some experimentation to kind of find that sweet spot. You can't, if you've never launched anything on LinkedIn and taken the channel seriously, you might have to figure out who that sweet spot person is as you go. It might not be something that just, oh, this is the sweet spot, let's launch. Hey, this was amazing. That rarely happens. Let's just be real about it. It rarely happens. You find your feet as you do it. And we're going to find our feet today and the next few days, whether this works or not. And I'll either come back tell you AI's a load of shit and don't do this, or I'll say it was the best decision I ever made. But, you have to find that sweet spot customer. And AI says, if I zero in on this sweet spot customer, my revenue is going to go up by 112%. And that would be very nice if it does. Obviously, I'm British, so I'm skeptical. I've seen stuff like this before where all the logic stacks up that it should work that way. It should happen that way, but will it really in practice? So we're about to find out in real time, Maverick's about to find out in real time whether AI can actually predict and help you improve your revenue. And the AI fanatics will tell you even if it doesn't work, it was us that did it wrong. But we just gave it the data and asked it to predict what would happen if we focused our marketing. We'll find out. We will find out. So, but it's worth doing it. I got the exercise itself, whether or not it kind of plays out how we think. I think we'll see an uptick. I think that's for certain. I think we will see an uptick. Whether it's 112%, I'm not sure. We will see an uptick. But the exercise of doing that, going through and looking at who's our sweet spot customer, where's the concentration of buyers, who has the highest lifetime value, and what industries and what's going on, that exercise itself was it just so enlightening, so like helping me see things more clearly. And we've done this before, but not to the extent that I did it in this past 2 days. So I will keep you in the loop about how this works. But that first exercise, I'd recommend to everybody. Go and have a look, enrich your customer data and kind of do the kind of research to kind of look at what's the patterns here, what's the emerging patterns. And you can do similar things with your call transcripts as well. I've done this quite a bit. Get my call transcripts from clients and conversations and literally say, what's the patterns here? What's the recurring themes? Because that becomes really good messaging that becomes really good things to learn from. So you might already be doing this, all right? But doing it on the scale we've done it is new, and literally deploying, kind of really just taking it seriously and going, we're gonna follow what the data says and what the advice says and see what happens. And the AI people will either hold us up as proof or proof that humans are not very good at using AI. We'll find out. But I don't know. Are you using AI like this? Are you having a go at doing this kind of stuff? I'd love to know what you're up to with it. And you know, I'm kind of like on tenterhooks at the moment, kind of sat there thinking, I wonder how long it will take for us to see that shift or that adjustment. Who knows? Who knows? But let me know how you're using AI. Are you just using it for content? Are you just using it for things like that? Or are you actually using it, the data side of it, to kind of help you make better business decisions? I'd be curious to know what you're up to. Anyway, that's over and out from me. Have a wonderful day. And I'm sharing later about 12:30 UK time. So that will be 7:30 Eastern. I'm sharing a testimonial from the accelerator as a post today. It's a cracker of a video from one of our clients. So keep an eye out for that, because it's a really good one.